premise, the three-step process of building scripts is still identical to earlier versions. You first start a recording, you go through a sample SAP scenario, record a transaction, then use the mapper to build an Excel template. So all that still remains, that's still the same. It's just the user interface has changed quite a bit, making it, I think, easier to use. It has a lot of sort of small quality of life improvements, as well as a handful of other new useful features. So I will go ahead and start a new transaction recording. I'll just do some simple small change in SAP, so just so we can see that we go through the whole recording process here. So I'll do something with MM0 to go there and change a couple of values, and that's it for the recording. But yeah, like I said, the main principle is still the same. You log into SAP. I was already logged into the Winshuttle test system here, so, and then I provide the transaction code that I want to record. As far as recording modes go, the latest Winshuttle function module is more intelligent, and quite often it will automatically select the correct recording mode for you. So you can just stick to the default standard mode here. But if you want to create scripts in other modes, the options are still available here to you. Other than that, you can just go ahead then and click Start Recording. For the most part, like I said, the recording process will be identical to the earlier version. The main difference here maybe being that you get these screens here showing you what's going on actually. So you have better feedback. Previously, you weren't, with the 10.x version, you weren't always sure what's happening. It just takes a while before, in this case, it's connecting to SAP, checking your authorizations and logging you in. And that's previously there was like no proper visual representation of that on your screen. So this is now better. You can actually see what's happening, especially in our case, because we are using the Winshuttle SAP system, which is like on the other side of the globe. So we get significant delays here. So it's nice to see that it's actually working, something's happening. So now we are in the recording phase, and I'll just go ahead and go into, pick up a material here, change a couple of values, and that will be basically my sample script for, I'll just do it, for instance. Doesn't really matter, we are just mainly looking at the feature in, and not actual process itself. So the script, I used a couple of weight values for a material, then I'm backing out and saving, and then the display here will change to indicate that it's now, the recording is complete, it's now compiling the scripts, and then we'll be back in Winshuttle once this is complete. So again, now here you see that it's actually, Winshuttle is doing actively something, it's compiling and finishing up the recording. So it's a nice to actually see this here as well. And also in case you actually want to cancel out, you can there's an option here to cancel, discard the recording, so you can either do this at the end or even in the beginning if you realize that you typed in the incorrect transaction code, and you can just quickly cancel the process and abort it and restart again. So that's, I think, a new feature as well. All right, I think we are almost done, and should be in the mapper screen in a second. All right, there we go. So the whole interface with Studio 11 has changed quite a bit, including the mapping view. So it might be, if you're used to using version 10, it might be a little daunting at first because everything looks a little bit different, but it just takes a little bit of time to find out where all the buttons are in the new version, but all the same features are still here. So one, I think, a, big improvement here in the mapper is that the spreadsheet here we have here has more features. It's more like a proper Excel style spreadsheet. So for instance, when we start mapping fields to the template to build an Excel template for our script, it's more responsive, especially if you have to modify scripts later on. If you have worked with version 10, if you had a script and a template that you had worked on earlier, it was kind of annoying to come back and modify your template because the fields and the headers did not automatically update once you come back to modify an existing script. But here you can just, if you remap the fields, you can see that it changes here in real time, making it easier to switch fields around and whatever you need to do. For instance, if I want to move a column to another location here, there's also the option, instead of dragging and dropping, you can configure here that I want to place it in front of before column B, and it actually shows you that this will be moved between columns A and B, and the other columns will be pushed to the right. So it makes it easier to manage this, and all the changes are then automatically shown here, updated in real time. You can also like modify the headers here, things like that. You can even enter values, which is important once we get to the next steps when we start adding test data. So it's still not still a full like Microsoft Excel that we have here, but it's still more robust and more full-featured as a spreadsheet manager than the one in the previous version. So it makes it a little bit easier and more convenient to manage the template here. Still, for more complex stuff, I still recommend that you do them then later on, once everything is finished, then later on do them in Excel, because Excel still has features available there that are not here. You can do more customization there, adding formulas, modifying fonts and colors if you want to do something like that. So this is the basic view. Then we still have the expert view here behind another tab here. I don't know how much you guys have been working with the expert view or with loops and conditions. Also, what sections you have visible here can be customized. So in case the screen is a little bit too busy for you, you could hide the right-hand side properties panel and even the template on the bottom, and just see, for instance, the expert view here to make it easier to figure out what or do what you are hoping to accomplish here. So that's all customizable. So as for the rules and loops and such, those are also been improved in this version. So, well, don't really have a good example in this template, but or in this script, but I'll just pick something here. So for instance, if you want to add a loop around a certain screen here, you select the screen and then you can add the loop here. And if you've been working with this before, you see that the loop creation dialog is more detailed. It shows you an actual, like a visual example of what the loop template will look like. It gives you instructions how to really do this. If you switch to a multi-sheet loop, it shows you different instructions here. So the instructions are more detailed here, which hopefully then make it easier to create and manage these loops. And once you, for instance, if you change the looped lines here, you can see that the selection changes there on the background to highlight what rows will be looped. So it's more visual, hopefully making it a little bit easier to manage loops, for instance. Same goes for other conditions as well, which still, if you are not familiar working with conditions, it can be a little bit complicated at first. And I think it comes down to the fact that you first have to figure out what the logic is, how you want the rule to work, then before you start really configuring rules in Studio 11. But still, the interface is much cleaner here, and you have more options. You can select columns and a longer list of available operators here. So you can check that if your value is then less than or equal to something, then this rule will be triggered. So there's a longer list of conditions you can create, and you can add multiple columns here, multiple conditions here, remove them and change how they behave. So it's a little bit easier to work with rules as well. I think the interface is much cleaner and user-friendly than in the 10.x version. So then a couple of new features that we have here. We have, for instance, a new feature in Studio 11 which requires the new Winshuttle function module is well, first of all, we have an improved file attachment function. So if we want to, well, we don't really have anything in this MM02, but basically if we wanted to add a file attachment upload to a script, we can simply add it here and say that we want to use the business document service to attach a file, upload a file to this transaction. It's actually that's not supported in this script, but it's for other places. For instance, if you are doing something with posting financial documents and you want to also upload an attachment there, upload an attachment file to SAP, then you can use that. It makes it quicker to add attachments without needing to build another script just to upload attachments. Same with long texts. If you have been working previously with any transaction that involved long texts in any form, you probably know that it's can be a bit of a pain, because first of all, it requires that you build the script in using a very specific recording mode. Sometimes you have to go to the line editor and edit the text one line at a time. Now this is a completely new feature here, which allows us to basically add texts, long texts related to whatever transaction we recorded. So since we did an MM02, and if you were following the recording, we didn't actually go into any view that had any long texts, but still we have these long texts available. So if I wanted to add something like sales texts or basic data texts to this script, I could add them here, and then it will add actually new towards the end of the script. It will add new fields for uploading long texts, which we could then map to our script. So it's a lot easier to work with long text, and you no longer really need to worry about what is the correct recording mode and am I doing this correctly, because even with the correct recording mode earlier, it was quite prone to errors. It was very easy to accidentally to record the transaction in a way that the long text didn't work. So there was a lot of trial and error involved in that. So the new add long text feature will hopefully make your life a little bit easier if you are working with long texts a lot. David briefly mentioned the linking of scripts as well. So that's also something that works a lot better in Studio 11, which actually that feature is actually in the run section of the script or Studio 11. So the way that works, let's actually at this point just save our script. So if you have built scripts earlier or linked scripts together using version 10, you probably know that it was a little bit of a hassle to link together multiple transaction scripts, because with version 10 you had to manually add one link at a time. So you would open the first script, add the link to the second file, then open up the second file and there add the link to the third file, and basically open up each script of the chain, one script at a time, and modify add the link, do it one by one, open. If you had 10 scripts, you had to open up all 10 scripts one at a time. So instead of that, there's the new chain scripts feature or dialog that allows you to manage the whole entire chain of linked scripts from one location, basically the main script, the first script that you run. So the purpose of this is that for certain processes where you are running multiple SAP transactions in sequence, you can build scripts for each one of those and then link them together to form one long chain of scripts here in Studio 11. MM02 probably not the best example of this, but it could be something like could be related to, for instance, if it's order process, you could have one script that creates a sales order, then another linked script that automatically creates a purchase order based on that, then another linked script that creates a contract, or maybe the contract would be the first script. But anyway, in any case where you have any business case where you have like process where you have multiple things, multiple SAP transactions that you run in sequence, that would be a good candidate for using the chain feature here in Studio 11. So you can then simply add, I'll just pick some random scripts here just to show you how this works. You can then just add them to this dialog and they show up here, and there's no limit. You can add multiple scripts, and then you can change the order of the scripts, how they are, in what order they are processed here using the up and down arrows. You have options for all these scripts, how they are run, what kind of run parameters you are using. So it's a lot more easier and quicker to do this, because you can then build the chain from one location, from one script, without needing to open up every single script one at a time. I'll just delete those here. So that's a really powerful feature if you are working with linked scripts a lot. Now, since we are in the run section here, again, since this is now a more featured spreadsheet here, you can actually add values here, which is something you couldn't do previously. You had to open up the file separately in Excel, add materials and weight values in Excel, and then before you could actually test your script. So when developing scripts, it's quite nice now that you can just directly modify your test values here, then run the script, change values while you are developing and debugging your script. One other feature, well, first of all, we still have the old style validation available here, but in addition to that, we have a new simulation feature in Studio 11, which is, it only applies to certain specific transactions, but it sort of does more than the old regular validation. For instance, financial postings, let's take something like FB50, where the sum of the debit and credit amounts have to match. It has to be a zero-sum posting, and that's something actually the totals are not checked during the regular validation, because that's actually something that happens in SAP. That check happens after you post the document. But with the simulation, we can also perform that check to make sure that the document is appropriate and valid. Like all in all for the entire process. So it's useful for certain transactions, like another more, I would say maybe a more advanced form of validation. So that's also something we have here. So then when you're working with your script, you are building it here, you would test it here, make sure everything's working as intended. You would be then, once everything's finalized, you know the script works, you would then proceed to publish it. Another new feature here regarding publishing is that as the developer now, you can specify, you can lock certain things here so that then the runner users are not able to change these. So you can lock that, for instance, each of these things. You can lock that this script is only using sheet 1 and it always has to start from row 2. And if you're using a specific end row, for instance, if I said that we are only allowed to run rows 2 through 10, I could lock these here. So then once I publish this, the runner user who is opening up this template in Excel will not be able to change these. So this gives the developer user more control over the template. They can lock certain things to make sure that the users don't accidentally modify these. Or another example would be the backup feature. If you have ever used this, what this does is when you run the script, it automatically takes a backup, stores the old values on another sheet in the same Excel file, just takes a backup copy of the existing SAP values before uploading the new values there. So this could be something, if you want to force that this setting is always on for every runner user, just enable it and lock it. Then after publishing, every time the runner user runs the script, it will automatically do this backing up of the data. So this is also a new feature, being able to lock these settings here. So then once the script has been published, I will not go through the publish here. I'll just open up another example here, which is actually a workflow related thing we'll be looking at later in the afternoon, just to give you an example of a pre-made or fully finalized and published Excel template. This would be a mass upload template for FB50. So the Excel add-in, that has changed a little bit. It's now more embedded into Excel. It's like this Excel ribbon style interface, whereas in the previous version you would have the whole side panel here on the right hand side opening up and actually covering a lot of the spreadsheet itself. So this integrates more nicely into the Excel and is less obtrusive. Other than that, you still have pretty much all the same options here. I think it's just the layout is better. It's easier to see different options here. If you have multiple scripts published, they would appear here and a drop-down menu. You can see some information of the script here and things like that. In this case, I didn't have any settings locked, so I can as the runner user, I could actually modify any of these settings here. So this is more of a Office ribbon style add-in. I guess that pretty much covers all the main points, all the new features and improvements we have here in Studio 11. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now.
I have a question.
I'll probably have to. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
As I said, clear to everyone, but anyway, if we have, I'm talking now customer master.
Yep.
If we are creating a script for create customer and then creating a script for extend customer, can we link these two together?
Yes.
Okay, because we get the number and then you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't need to ask you.
You context function.
Yep.
It sounded like